there are certain heroes that everybody's playing because they saw RTZ play it or because they saw somebody else play it.
Yep.
And the build is interesting and fun and new, but not necessarily good.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another tier list by popular request. You guys love these, and we hope that it provides you guys with some necessary information so that you guys can pick heroes that you don't know how to play and ruin your own games.
That's exactly what I use tier list for as well.
So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. S tier. I currently have 3 heroes listed here. They are Phantom Lancer, Slark, and Lycan. And I wasn't entirely sure about these 3, to be honest. I don't really feel like necessarily anything in the carry is like super S tier, but aside from maybe Lycan. But I want to hear your thoughts because I think that these 3 are definitely plaguing high-level pubs, and they're definitely plaguing the competitive scene right now for sure.
So the way that I have it, my S and A tier is largely the same as yours, but I have Wraith King and Lycan as the 2 S tier heroes. I think people are getting a lot better at playing Wraith King, sometimes opting to skip the stun. There's a lot of builds that people are messing around with. RTZ played it, so everybody saw that, so everybody's copying his build. Lycan, this hero goes without saying, 65 or something % win rate in pro level pubs. It's just a broken hero. But I think Wraith King is really taking the cake now for the S tier carry that you can pick. It's very easy to play too, very hard to stop in pubs. Maybe that's like a pub thing that it's just really hard to stop, but it's quite good. Definitely quite good.
His crit does too much damage.
It does, yeah. Like, I played 5 Wraith King the other day, and I was critting for 300, and I didn't have any damage items. I had like Phase Boots Vlad's. And before that, I was in the laning stage. I was critting people for like 200 with just brown boots in like a buckler or something. It's
right.
This doesn't feel exactly right. And then I was giving my troll warlord the damage and lifesteal because he's a melee hero, which is pretty cool. So yeah, pretty strong hero. I would say in A tier, the A tier heroes, in my opinion, are so much better than the B tier heroes.
Yeah, I
that
agree.
I almost like. This is why I was also thinking, okay, are there any actual S tier heroes? I feel like Wraith King and Lycan are much better than the A tier heroes, and I feel like the A tier heroes are so much better than the B tier heroes that I don't really know why exactly you would pick the B tier heroes if there are A tier heroes available. I do have some different heroes, but I have some that are the same. For A tier, I have I would put PL and Slark into probably A tier. That's what I would. And
I'm gonna drop Slark but leave PL in S just because I feel like PL kind of fits into that pub archetype where you almost don't even have to try to win the game. You just like hit creeps, and then most of the time people can't deal with you.
Sounds like Wraith King.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna leave him in S, but I would agree. Slark is definitely kind of trending down a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was going with that, is that Slark is trending down. You could make an argument for all of these A tier heroes to be S tier. Void, people are doing like the Battle Fury build. Ursa was just buffed. Morphling was just buffed. Naga Siren is just a cancerous hero that's plaguing pubs. But if we want to go through them like real quickly, I think Naga Siren's hard to win with. I think it's a really good hero. It's better if you're a good Naga Siren player, maybe S tier. Morphling similarly, if you look at Morphling stats, they don't actually look that great in terms of win rate. Ursa, his stats are pretty good despite being nerfed. So I think that's why I wouldn't necessarily put him in S tier, is because he did have these nerfs and people are kind of thinking, okay, well, he got nerfed, he's probably worse than before. That's not true. That's like that's the narrative that people are saying right now, and that's just straight up not true. The hero's still good.
Yep.
It's not as buffed as it was at the start of the patch, but it's still really good. And Faceless Void also, I would say, considered possibly you could consider it S tier, but the stats don't look that great on him. There are a lot of people picking Void and losing with Void. You can pick it and then lane against something like a Venomancer and get completely destroyed in lane. I think there are some solid counters.
Also, the fact that Wraith King is considered S tier kind of nerfs Void, right? Because like that's kind of like the perfect counter to Void in terms of a carry hero. So if you're against the Void, you definitely want to pick Wraith King.
Even something like Lycan.
Mhm.
Lycan plays the game by ending the game as early as possible. He's not a carry that you are particularly happy about going late game. I mean, you're okay with it, but he wants to end the game. And Faceless Void, with the build that people are doing, that's good, which is the Battle Fury, Mask of Madness,
Super
that sort of
late
thing.
game focused.
It's a late game
Yeah.
build, exactly. So they can kind of function as a counter to each other, but mostly Lycan is so strong in the early game that it's pretty secure that you can win the early game against a Faceless Void.
Yep. I want to say real quick about Ursa. Um, this hero, I feel like it's, I guess maybe with Weaver, at least in my A tier. I don't know if you have if Weaver is in your A tier or not, but it's
I
kind
actually have
of.
Weaver in C tier.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, well, Ursa is like the only hero aside from maybe Slark that has this no cooldown, like hyper aggressive from like minute 5 or 6 onward, and I think with those two, it's basically like you have to just snowball the entire game. If you die or if you falter, if you take like a couple minutes in the jungle, you kind of just lose. Whereas the rest of the heroes that are in S and A are kind of the heroes that you're like, I don't really care how the first 25 minutes of this game goes. Like it could
Yeah,
be
I agree.
terrible, it could be great, it doesn't really matter.
If you jungle for like 5 minutes against a Wraith King, he's going to have 3 levels on you.
Yeah.
That hero jungles so ridiculously quickly. The reason that I put Weaver in C tier is because with the changes to the hero, I
Mm-hmm.
watched the win rate plummet. It went down by like 5 or 6%
Hmm.
on the first day that they did those nerfs. And I played it afterwards, after those nerfs, and I could really feel the difference in the damage. Like one of the best things about Weaver, it was the fact that his agi gain and his stats are just so good, which is surprising that I'm saying this because historically this hero's had shitty stats, but his stats were so good that you didn't actually need damage items. You go for farming items, you could go for defensive items, and yet you would still do damage. That doesn't really feel like the case anymore, especially when you're trying to deal with heroes like PL, like Wraith King, who respawns. It has a second life. Naga Siren, who has illusions. It really, you can really feel the nerfs to that hero, but the win rate's still decent. So
Sure.
maybe B tier, but trending downward, and maybe it'll land in B tier.
Sure. Yeah, I'll put it in B. I was mostly noticing that Mason is like 20-1 with Weaver in the last week, and so I was like, of course it is Mason Weaver, right? It's like his hero.
That's it
Um,
exactly. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
right.
I was going to say he's just about the only person that I know that is still playing the Weaver hero right
Mm,
now. Everybody else kind of has chalked it off as chalked it up to being shit now.
sure. So we kind of agree S and A. Um, PL maybe A, Void maybe S, Naga maybe S, Morphling maybe S,
Yeah,
depending on the player who's playing it. But
there's a
definitely Wraith King and Lycan
in
are the
Lycan,
top.
definitely.
Yep.
Yeah. And I would say that there are a couple of B tier heroes that you have that I might put in A tier,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot that I was considering. Like, okay, are we talking competitive? Are we talking in pubs? Because there are certain heroes like Terrorblade is a really
Yep.
good example, in my opinion. This hero's trending upward. If you look at Moo, for example, one of the best carry players in NA, he is playing almost exclusively Wraith King, Lycan, and Terrorblade. However, I would recommend for people to play Wraith King Lycan, but I would not recommend for people to play Terrorblade because I think it's a lot harder to play. I
Yep.
think the timings are very specific. It's very easy to feed on that hero, and also you kind of need your team to support you a lot in pubs. Whereas Lycan and Wraith King, they're kind of brainless.
Right. Yeah, I've been seeing Arteezy play this a lot as well, and he's going for like the hyper greed, Ring of Tarrasque build in the lane. But I definitely feel like if you start pulling that in like 2K, 3K pubs, you're probably going to get obliterated and then just never hit your timings in time.
And reported. You'll get
Yeah,
reported too.
exactly. That's also kind of how I feel about a hero like Spectre. Uh, it's definitely trending upwards. It seems like a really good hero. It's kind of brainless, but at the same time, I think it's one of those heroes that people put a lot of faith in to carry a late game. But I'm seeing it not carry late games as much these days. I feel like it is one of those heroes that the way it's currently played, which is like the Necrobook into Radiance build into tanky items, it just doesn't actually win the game. Like it kind of wins you fights if people focus you, but if you get ignored and they kill your teammates, then you don't really do any damage.
Right. I would put Spectre in a category of be very careful picking it.
Yeah.
Because there are certain heroes that everybody's playing because they saw RTZ play it or because they saw somebody else play it.
Yep.
And the build is interesting and fun and new, but not necessarily good. Like if you
Right.
look at Spectre's stats on Dota 2 Pro Tracker, it doesn't look that great. People are picking this hero and they're losing with it. And a good example of something that was a debate for me, it was a debate. And on I think Alchemy Answers and Replay Review, I talked about this in a positive light. Spirit Breaker.
Mhm.
This Travels Aghanims build seemed really good. It's really interesting. It's new. Zai was doing it. 43% win rate. This hero has one of the lowest win rates. It is a dog shit build. And that's where I would put Spectre and also the hero that's right next to her, Gyrocopter. I would say both of these heroes, people thought at the start of the patch that they're going to be really good. And yes, they're probably decent, but they're not as broken as people thought. They definitely aren't. Like if we look at Gyrocopter, I think his is more reasonable. He's a 49% win rate. So not necessarily that good, not that bad. Pretty good considering Gyro had it like a 30-something% win rate before.
Right.
But Spectre is 46% win rate, and this is in 708 games out of 7,000. So Spectre's in 10% of games, and if you pick Spectre, you have a 5% greater chance to lose. So that's pretty bad. Even though this
Those
is
are just stats, man. It's hard to lie with that.
It is, it is just stats. Take it whatever way you want. But if you look at something like Lycan, who everybody was hyping up, 65% win rate, and you go into a game, you can feel the impact of these heroes. If you have a Spectre on your team versus a Lycan, you feel it. Then you take that feeling and you also look at the stats, and it's like, oh, that represents my feeling completely. 46% win rate. That's what it felt like I had on my team.
Yep, totally. Were there any other B tier heroes that you'd put in A? Or
Riki,
lower?
I would say Riki is a very potential candidate for A tier. It's a little hard, but his win rate is quite good. He's a 54% win rate, and he's in 1,000 games out of 7,000, so he's in quite a few games.
We'll throw him up there. I can get down with that. I just think it's a little bit harder to play than the other ones that we have in A and S. But then again, he kind of fits the archetype of Ursa or Slark, where it's like you get ahead, and then you have to stay ahead. But if you are ahead, it's fairly easy to stay ahead because you're very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, he's also got one of the more unique play styles out of all of the carry heroes, in the fact that once you get level 6, a lot of people spend a lot of time just running around and hunting. He is an active hero that also, just with how his new spells work, scales really well into the late game. So if you're looking for a hero that can be incredibly active and gank and fight, Riki is definitely that hero for you. There are obviously spikes that you need to wait for sometimes, but generally speaking, you can be pretty active on Riki. So I know a lot of carry players have this problem where they fight a lot. You can't do that on Sven. You can do that on Riki.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Other B tier heroes. I mean, I've I've been losing a lot of games, but I've been playing a lot of different heroes just because I'm curious to see how stuff feels. And I gotta say that PA is one other candidate that I want to keep an eye on, because I think that it's kind of one of those heroes that, again, you don't really care how the game goes, because once you get your farming item and your fighting item, like Battle Fury BKB, you kind of just do too much damage, and you can really, really have high impact. But I also think that there is some potential there to go like very active and just go like double Wraithband Tread into Desolator BKB and then just fight and take the cleave talent so you can farm at 15. But I don't know. It's definitely lower on the totem pole in terms of ease of execution than anybody in the A or S tier for sure.
I think this is the first hero that we actually have like a pretty big disagreement on, because I put PA in dog shit tier. I actually have her the lowest possible tier. So a big reason for that is the win rate, 40% win rate in pro level pups. I do want to say something though. I feel like in the lower rated games, PA is going to get way less punished.
Yes.
And it just ends much better there. Like you're going to get to your timings. The big reason that I consider PA dog shit, and I was actually considering putting PA. It's probably more fair to put PA in like D or C tier, even by my logic. And the reason that I would say maybe D or C tier is because of the rapier build. I think the rapier build is actually pretty is pretty reasonable, but it's a ridiculous thing to require in order to make the hero good. But I really think that PA, if she's going to be against some Bat Rider in the laning stage, some Sand King,
True.
It's one of the worst laners in the game, just insanely punishable. And then it takes like 30 minutes to do something. And I feel like something like a Naga or a Riki is going to have that same spike, but without requiring 30 minutes.
Sure.
But you know, you get a rapier on PA, it's much better than a rapier on Riki.
Yep.
So there's definitely potential with the hero. It's not like it's a potentialless hero like Medusa. It's a hero with potential for sure. And the C tier actually has quite a few heroes, in my opinion, that have a decent amount of potential.
Yep. Let's just talk about them real quick. Most of them, like Sven, Magnus. Honestly, Sven, this is a hero that I feel like it should be good, but I don't think that it's quite there yet because he's too ult reliant to be like very useful. It kind of feels like you have like a 5-second window to win a team fight, and if you don't do that, you lose. And that's not a very good feeling on a carry where most of the other ones are like, hey, we can take a fight for like 2 minutes and we're going to be stronger at the end of it than we were at the start.
Yeah. I feel like that's not true for Sven once he's level 20 and has like 4 items. But at that point, needing 4 items in level 20 is a bad requirement for a carry. Riki picks up a diffusal blade and he's just unstoppable. Yep. You know, it's rough out there for Sven. Also a 40% win rate hero. Like Sven is not doing well in pro level pubs, and the win rate in other pub brackets also looks abysmal. Like he just is abysmal in all brackets, it seems.
Yep. Magnus, I wanted to just talk about because I saw people picking this up against Sven, against Anti-Mage. Like, this was, I guess, maybe before 725, but it was kind of an interesting concept of like, hey, if you have a Battle Fury carry like Anti-Mage, or like if people are going for, you know, Battle Fury on Void or Jug,
Mag just out farms them basically.
He just has a Battle Fury already, so he just starts the game with a Battle Fury, and then he essentially does the exact same thing because he has high mobility, he's got good farming, he does a ton of damage, and then he also has a game-changing ultimate that none of the other ones do. So I thought that was kind of a cool way to play Magnus, is if you see a Battle Fury hero or you somebody that's going to be very kind of like late game focused, you just pick him up, and then he's like basically a faster anti-mage. Which is also how people are kind of playing Alchemist now, where like if you see a late game hero, you pick Alchemist and then you outscale them.
Yeah, Alch's decent. That's probably one of the heroes that's in C tier that I would say has a lot of potential for being a really broken hero like 1 to 2 weeks from now. But for now, the win rate doesn't look that good. That's possibly impacted by people picking Alch in bad games and it being a pub. Who knows? But Alch definitely feels viable. But maybe not broken, maybe not absolutely broken, unless it's a good last pick game for it. Leshrac is definitely decent. I would say that hero's just really good right now in general. My only problem with Leshrac, and this is why I would put him in D or C tier for carry, is that you're basically committing entirely to doing like an early game push strat. And if you run into the enemy team and you fight them and you lose with an early game push strat, then you end up with basically an offlaner playing as your carry, and that can be pretty sad. You know, you don't have an insurance policy in the case of having Leshrac as your carry.
Pretty good against PL though, like, which I think lends credence to him being a little bit higher, maybe.
But probably better in another role. You know,
Sure.
You can just play that as an offlaner, for example, with like some Earth Spirit as a roamer to set up and tank for the Leshrac, and you're solid.
Makes sense. Let's just talk quickly about D tier. I mean, what needs to be said about these? These are all very, very slow, long cooldown, kind of like cannot really fight very much, but they don't also scale that well unless you have like a team that's built around them.
I would say Night Stalker is like kind of not even on the list anymore just because the Ags was nerfed so heavily. I actually took him off my list. I took Mag off the list too, just because I feel like both of those heroes are played in other roles. I was considering taking Bristle off the list, but then I saw people are picking it in competitive a little bit. Drow, I think, is a very regular hero. Chaos Knight is a hero that has some serious potential. He has a high win rate in pro level pubs, but very few picks. That's a hero who potentially could be broken, but nobody gives a shit about it right now for some reason. So we just have no way to tell. But if it's like any of the other patches, he's bad.
Right. He is also one of those heroes that just relies so heavily on his ultimate, and
which luckily has been reduced in cooldown in the later levels.
It has, finally. Still 2 minutes to be able to use your
Yeah.
damage, basically, which is not great.
I also put Arc Warden. I took Arc Warden off my list too, just
Mhm,
because I feel like he's almost exclusively a mid laner.
mhm.
He needs so much space and so many levels that I would just say, like, as a carry, it's really rough. But we've seen it in competitive, so uh,
It also just seems like
it's
really hard to lane with this hero in the safe lane. Like under pressure, you really don't want two heroes just like punching you in the face as Arc Warden.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Klink's probably a mid laner too, and
Mhm.
Medusa I would say is just a dog shit hero. I would say Medusa might be the worst hero in Dota.
Really, because Yawar just won a game with the Rapier Rush Medusa in
Okay,
20
okay,
minutes.
okay. The three heroes that I have in dog shit tier,
Mhm.
and I know you don't have a dog shit tier because you know carry players get very offended by this.
True.
I know you know the carry players out there. Uh, Medusa,
Mhm.
PA,
Okay.
and Luna. And my reasoning behind this is Luna, PA, and Medusa all require ludicrous builds in order to be viable. I think Luna's a good hero.
Uh,
Why? Magic damage. I think PA is a good hero. Why? Rapier. I think Medusa's a good hero. Why? Rapier. That is fucking risky to
yeah.
go for a magic damage build on a carry Luna or to go for Rapier on Medusa or PA. Like, at that point, why the hell don't you just have a Lycan or Wraith King?
Right.
You know? Like,
Fair
you're
enough.
just you're just making the game so much more stressful for yourself than necessary. That's what I think.
Fair enough.
And I agree with the anti-mage. He doesn't even get to fit in the other tiers.
With that being said, this is the carry tier list for 7.25B and beyond. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Did we miss anything? Did we put your favorite hero in a tier way lower than you think? We know we did, so feel free to disagree with us in the comment section below. Thank you as always for watching, and we'll see you in another video very soon.